Now, podcast guesting is a lot of fun. It's challenging, and at times you're outside your comfort zone, but that is where you grow. Now, you're out there on the digital stage, just like a stand-up comic. You're out there in front of an audience, you're practicing your material, and you're getting feedback. You're trying new material, maybe they don't like it, maybe they do like it, but you're rehearsing, you're iterating, you're improving. In the startup parlance, you're validating your product. And it's no different from storytelling. It's no different from thought leadership. What you're doing as a thought leader is you are practicing putting out your content in an agile way and then finding what gets, in the comedian's parlance, laughs. And then from that content, you can create your set. Your set could be your 30, 40-minute podcast guesting appearance, and it's flexible. You've got these bricks that you can interchange. That's agile storytelling, and I talk about agile storytelling in an episode of this mini series on thought leadership and podcast guesting. Now, it's all very well going out there and creating your set, but what is missing in this equation for a lot of thought leaders is a small piece of material, a content tool, and a device for you to turn those podcast guesting appearances into real business. And that bridge, which I also talk about in the whole structure of the thought leadership funnel, is your newsletter. Now, newsletters are a very powerful tool for thought leaders. I know people say, oh, newsletters are dead. They've been saying newsletters are dead since 20 years ago, since I first started using newsletters. They've been predicting the decline of newsletters since the beginning of newsletters. Now, here's the thing with a newsletter is that it's probably more important than ever. And why is that? Go and watch the episode, listen to the episode on the attention economy. Why we need to create an asset, a home, if you like, for your fans. Because all of those people that listen to you on the podcast guesting gig that you do, if you don't convert a number of them to your audience, and that happens by getting them signed up on your newsletter with a simple transaction. Give me your email and I will give you my lead magnet. It doesn't have to be difficult. You don't have to write a whole book. You can get a 12-page transcript, for example, from a 40-minute podcast. It's very easy to give this stuff away, and I see people give away single-page lead magnets. It could be what we call in the internet marketing world a content upgrade. You know, it could be in the middle of your blog post. If you want to get my 10 tips, this single page or my cheat sheet, click this button, sign up for my newsletter. And that gets people signing up because you've got to get them. That is the moment at which their attention is the highest. And it's a game. It's a race against time, because the moment they leave your website, the moment they leave the podcast and it's done, then the attention drops in a hyperbolic way, really. It's day by day. The half-life of attention is half what it was a year ago. It's just getting harder and harder because of things like TikTok and social media, that I walk away from a podcast, I walk away from your website, and I forget about you. Monday morning, I'm gone. Like, I can't even remember who you were. That's the problem that we have today. We live in an attention-stretched world, folks. So if you have their attention, that moment that they're listening to the podcast, take them to your newsletter. Go to my website, all the W's, my name, my business, myproduct.com, and get my 10-page PDF, free download, which is all about whatever your shtick is, whatever your key talking points are. Go to my website and get that. It's free. Don't give away hundreds and hundreds of pages. Don't give away something that's too much. Give away something that they can consume immediately. If you're going to give away a course, like I do, give them step by step. Don't give it all at once, because then it becomes work. You've got to keep that conversation going. You've got to keep them coming back. Now, the reason why you need a newsletter is because in our world, thought leadership, B2B, the buying behavior of your client is different to a B2C consumer. In B2C, if I'm thirsty, I might buy a Coke because I've seen an advertising hoarding for Coke at the bus stop. That triggered my memory. I walk into the newsagents, buy a Coke. It's a very simple transaction. It's low risk. It's a low ticket item. But in our world, it's very different. It's conceptual. You're selling maybe SaaS software. You may be selling a platform. You might be selling consultancy. You might be selling coaching. You might be selling something which requires me to really trust you first because it's a high ticket item and it may be a long sales cycle. So I may be interested in you, but to go from interest to engagement to eventually buying from you in whatever format that may be, it's a long process. You can see the equivalence of this in the world of B2B enterprise sales. If you're selling software to a large enterprise, this isn't a decision that's made in minutes. This is a decision that's made with multiple people in weeks, if not months. I've seen enterprise sales cycles that last a year. So you have to ask yourself, like, how do you keep that audience, that listener, that fan, that follower engaged for a year? Because what that means is if you drop off at any time during that year, you've lost them. And here's the thing with those buyers is that they may be interested, but they may not be buying until 18 months from now. That's the reality. You're on their radar 18 months from now. If you are still in the game and they are on your newsletter, they'll be coming to you when they say, oh, you're the guy that talks about logistics. I want to chat with you. And you may not know that person. You may not have talked to them for 18 months, but for the last 18 months, they've been on your newsletter getting updates and just staying in the loop. It's like watering a plant. You know, there's the old story of watering the bamboo. You know, if you take a bamboo bulb and you plant it in the earth and water it, it doesn't grow. It's not like an immediate result with a bamboo. And many people would give up because they're watering the bamboo, the bulb under the earth, and there is no sign of return. And it's like nurturing your newsletter. And so you've got to have patience. You've got to be in it for the long term. And you can keep watering and watering that bulb and nothing happens. But what happens on a newsletter, and the same with that bamboo bulb, is overnight, bamboo can break through the earth and first a shoot, and then bamboo can grow 2 meters in 48 hours overnight. But if you had given up on that watering process, the bulb would have died. And if you actually look under the earth at the bamboo bulb during all the time that you were watering it, when nothing was appearing above soil, what was happening with that bulb as it was growing out rhizomes, as they call them, like thousands, if not millions of connections of these mini roots in the earth, getting ready to burst through. And that's the story of the bamboo. And that's like how you should treat and nurture your audience, because every single one of them is a bulb. Every single one of them is a potential that can burst through and become a client of yours. But what happens is we only focus, because of this world, this attention-stretched world that we live in, on the ones that are breaking through at any one time. And therefore, we give up on the nurturing process. And that's why you've got to have a newsletter, because the newsletter helps you nurture. It helps you keep those audience leads in the game, on your list for weeks, months, maybe years. And then one day they break through. And you may wonder, where did that come from? Well, that was all the work that went under the surface that you didn't see. And only a newsletter can do that. You can't do that posting constantly on Instagram or LinkedIn. And that's why you should have a newsletter, because it can create conversations at scale to 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000 people, all at the same cost of your time. And it can do it whilst you're sleeping, or whilst you're creating a podcast, or whilst you're doing anything else. And I think the newsletter is probably the most overlooked and most important part of any thought leader's journey. And it's why I recommend it to you. And setting one up dead easy.